Hi, my name is Borys, and in this video I'm going to show you piano roll techniques for writing incredible patterns in Ableton 12. These can really transform your boring MIDI into more interesting and elaborate sounding progressions. Before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got a lot more content about Ableton coming up. If you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out our Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course, and make sure to also see the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. Links to all of that will be in the video description. Alright, so let's get started. And by the way, we also have a beginner's version of a piano roll tutorial, so if you're just getting started, then check out that one before we get into all the slightly more advanced techniques today. Let's give a quick listen to this fragment. This is one of the projects files included in our Ableton beginners course. So let's just listen. This is a very simplified version. We also have a whole bunch of other tracks. Would sound like this with all the rest. I'm just leaving these 3 tracks so we can have some fun with interesting MIDI editing. To begin with, let's open up the pad, and first of all, I wanted to show you the MIDI stretch markers. So let's say we have this progression, but what if you wanted this progression to be a bit quicker? Yeah, we could double or divide the time. So for instance, if you want to make it twice as fast, we can just divide it. And it also nicely shortens the loop brace. But we can also use these stretch markers, which appear when you have a selection at the top. So let's just select everything, and maybe we can just drag the last stretch marker to the left, and as you can see, it responds to it really well. We can also drag the front. So for instance, if we just wanted to play in this section, we can just stretch it to that. You could, for instance, have this section playing here and maybe these chords playing over here. This way you can achieve interesting timing without having to just manually edit every chord and every single note. Let's quickly take a look at the tabs in depth. As you can see in Ableton 12, we've got the main clip properties and the extended clip properties. And in the main clip properties, that doesn't really change between arrangement and session view, but if we take a look at the extended clip properties, we just have MIDI program change editing over here. So if you want to change the patch on your synth, you can do it here. And if you go into session view, you also have the follow actions, which are a great way of adding variation and just sequencing out in the session view. But let's get back to the arrangement, and we also have 3 tabs over here. So the first one is pitch and time utilities, and these are the basic, most important settings. Then we have transformation tools, which actually include quantization, but also things like LFOs and even arpeggiation. And also we've got the generative tools tab, which include things like the seed, which can make it go crazy. But for now, let's just stick to the first tab, the pitch and time utilities. So the first thing we have here is inversion. So it just flips the selection upside down. Then we also have an add interval option. So we can add an interval over here. But if we now change this to scale mode, we can actually just add notes in scale degrees. So we skip over the notes which don't belong to the scale, like this. We can also extend and shorten our MIDI with the stretch knob. And also if we, for instance, wanted to change the length of all of these notes, for instance, to just a quarter note, here we have an option to select the length of all the notes. So you can make them longer and shorter. And we also have humanization, which allows you to just nudge the notes left and right a bit randomly. And this just adds that human feel. We can also reverse the entire progression. And then we also can add legato to fragments which basically have a gap between them. And this way we can fill in the gaps, for instance, when making pad sounds. Right, so that would be a quick overview of this section. Also, some tabs really worth taking a look at are these 3 tabs over here. So this is the basic tab with notes, where you can also edit velocity and also chance, which is basically the probability of the note being played. But also we've got the envelopes view, which is really important. And this is a bit of an alternative to making automations inside the arrangement. What's cool about this is that even if you draw a change, for instance, I'm modulating the wavetable filter frequency. If we now play this progression, I can still move around this knob, which is great if you want to add some more changes later on. But if you automate a knob, you can only tweak the entire automation lane or sort of bypass it by moving the knob manually. So I really like the envelopes view. What's great about it is that on the device itself, we can just select a parameter and it changes to that parameter immediately. So we don't have to search for the exact parameter over here. The last tab would be MPE, and this is where you can draw in, for instance, pitch bend information. If we wanted to, for instance, change our pitch to smoothly glide between one note and the next note, we can do that here. And for instance, if our notes over here were lower, then we can glide from higher notes to lower notes and from lower notes to higher notes. But let's skip MPE for now and take a look at some other features. Let's take a hi-hat track out of the rest group and just put it below our main parts. I'm just going to add a blank MIDI clip with a duration of 1 bar. What I wanted to show you is how you can easily chop notes. So we just have a single C3 note here. But if I right click on it and choose chop notes on grid, we easily get chops according to the grid. And now what's great about this is that we also have the shortcut Control and E and Command and E, and chopping is really easy because you can just change the grid size, for instance, by Control or Command and 1 or 2. And for instance, if we now want to chop, just Control or Command and E, and we are chopping the notes on the grid. Let's just chop to 16th notes, and chance is another really important feature. And basically you can choose what's the probability of this note being played. So let's choose something like 50%. And what's great about this is that you can actually record it. So if we just add a MIDI track and we select our fast hats wide track, we can now record the MIDI coming out of this track onto the next one. So we will get just the hits that are actually being played, and then we can edit them further. So let's give this a try. So as you can also see, if we just show the take lanes, we see all of the different takes, and now we can pick which MIDI clip suits us, and we can edit it further by, for instance, just dragging it over to the first track and deleting our second blank MIDI track. Now, another great feature is being able to edit multiple clips at once. So let's say maybe we can color this yellow, so there's a clear difference. This is our pluck chords group. I'm just going to split these clips over here. So here we have our notes, and we can also view the arpeggio at the same time. So we see exactly how the notes overlap, and we see that all of these notes belong to the pluck chords as well. So if you're seeing multiple clips, you can just sort of focus in on a certain layer just by switching between these two lines towards the top. So if we want to edit the yellow clip, we just click on the yellow bar first and just join the notes. And the same applies to blue if we just want to add some notes here. We just click on the blue line and we can add notes this way. Now let's take a look at the chords once again, and maybe I'm just going to slightly change the sound. And let's just map the amp envelope to the frequency of the filter as well. Now, also a great feature is being able to strum the notes. And this is possible in the second tab, so in MIDI transformation tools. And if we just select strum over here, and we select, for instance, this first chord, we can just edit how fast these notes are played. So let's give this a listen. Or even we can change this curve. So if you find a curve that you like, you can just select all of the notes. I'm doing it with Control or Command and A, and just click Transform. And if auto is enabled, you can also adjust this in real time. So I really like the strum feature, and it's great for things like guitars or pianos to just add that little bit of humanization. And also in conjunction with the humanize feature, this can really sound much better. So this sounds almost as if someone was playing that in on a MIDI keyboard. Let's finally take a look at the Transformations tab. I'm going to take the chords clip and put it onto the arpeggio track. This patch is monophonic, so it won't play right now, but if we were to turn this into a melody, there's an easy way of doing that. We can just arpeggiate the chords. Let's choose, for example, 8th notes. So you can choose the distance as well. So this is what's going to happen after you run out of notes on your MIDI source. If we were to turn this back to 0, we're just repeating the notes of the source. We can also choose interesting settings. So for example, and you can also tweak the timing. Let me just take the kick. So for instance, if we choose a faster timing, you can end up with something that could be usable. So let's try to play this with the chords. Let's just disable the delays and play this with some other elements. So you can, for example, now just choose certain notes, delete others, and do all kinds of other processing, for instance, just by tweaking chance. So maybe let's just focus in on this section, and let's just fold to our scale. Here's our progression once again. Okay, so some other transformation tools that are quite useful. For instance, we have Recombine, which basically allows you to rotate the entire pattern. So as you can see, it's sort of a wave, which allows you to move the progression around. Let's just consolidate this MIDI clip, and now if we rotate, you can see that we're just moving these notes left and right. But what's great about this is that whatever just falls out of view onto the left just appears right on the right. So that's just one way of doing it. We could also use time warp, which allows you to change the timing. Let's say we want to tweak the timing of this fragment. Maybe let's make it a bit more subtle. Yeah, and you can apply this to other sections as well and sort of repeat the same. Yeah, and in this way you can create interesting timing without also dragging the notes around manually. You can also just make it sound a bit glitchy. So if we were to just do something like this, that would sound really weird. And you can this way just maybe add speed up sort of effects before the drop, or use this in any other creative way. Let's just draw in a blank clip, and maybe we can just... let's just have a random sort of melody. I'm just going to quantize this and let's play what we have. Alright, and now what if we wanted to turn this into something more interesting? We can add notes in between these, and this is nicely done with the connect feature. So if we choose connect, we can just tweak around these controls. You choose the rate, you can choose the grid, for instance. So we're adding notes on the grid here. Yeah, but this is quite boring because we're only adding notes in between, in pitch as well. So you can also sort of offset these notes randomly. Maybe we can go up to 7 scale degrees, so a fifth. We already have something slightly more interesting. Maybe let's just decrease the density a bit. And we can also add tie, which extends some of the notes. And you can freely repeat this to get a different version. So for instance, I like this section, but I liked the beginning of the other loop we had. So I can just delete the second part here and paste whatever I generated in the second attempt. And this already creates a random melody. And let's just quickly try this out with some chords. So maybe we can change this note. And let's duplicate, start from a different note. And maybe duplicate this, take the rest of this clip, just purely improvising and just repeat the last one. And let's listen to this entire progression. Maybe let's duplicate the kick drum as well. And we've already created a long melody pattern without actually writing much, just tweaking some notes and copying and pasting different clips. If we now take a look at this clip, and if we wanted to add legato, for instance, if we swap the sound for something that has sustain, maybe I'm just going to add sustain manually here for the time being. So we can also, instead of just clicking legato over here, which is perfect for simple legato, we can also go into span, and here you can either choose simple legato, you can also offset these notes so you've got a bit more control, and you can also just add a bit of variation to the offset, and you can also choose between different settings like tenuto and staccato, which basically shortens every single note. That's cool if we now were to record this onto a new MIDI track. So if you now select saw simple arp to maybe just also show take lanes, and we can now start messing around here. So let's try recording something. So we've got, for instance, this pattern, which has notes which are getting longer and longer, and we've also got this. So we can now just play these two together. And we already have much more variation. Alright, that would be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found some of these techniques useful. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with lots of start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres. And if you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. Make sure to also see the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. And to see all of that, check the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, write us a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.